Dead space can be defined as a volume of ventilated gas which does not take part in gas exchange. Physiological dead space is also called wasted ventilation. Dead space can be classified into two types, anatomical as well as alveolar. Anatomical dead space, it includes any breathing system or airway plus mouth, nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea and the airway up to until the start of respiratory zone. The typical volume in an adult is 150 ml. This is a fraction of tidal volume, that is rebreathed and does not help in elimination of carbon dioxide. This usually includes the part, the connection near the patient end where fresh gas enter, for example junction of the Y-piece or catheter mount. This may add about 50 to 100 ml, and to an adult it may not be much consequence. However, in a small baby this can be very much significant. So this is a diagram showing the dead space up to the terminal bronchioles where having this conducting zone. This is the anatomical dead space. So factors affecting the anatomical dead space, it increases with increase in the body size and with increasing age, increase in the lung volume as well as bronchodilation, emphysema, pneumonia, ARDS, as well as in jaw extension in intubated patient. And anatomical dead space decreases with posture, like in supine posture, with bronchoconstriction, with lung excision, with neck flexion, and when we do intubation or putting the oral or nasal airways and LMAs. The second is our alveolar dead space. This occurs when the area of lungs are being ventilated but are not being perfused. This leads to what is known as VQ mismatch. A large increase in alveolar dead space commonly occur in following conditions like pneumonia, pulmonary edema and pulmonary embolism. So the factors affecting the alveolar dead space are like with increasing age it increases, with increasing pulmonary arterial pressure it increases, and with the posture like in upright and lateral positions due to exaggeration of hydrostatic differences it increases, and it also increases due to with the intermittent pulmonary positive pressure ventilations. As tidal volume increases, alveolar dead space also increases. So with hypoxic vasoconstriction this alveolar dead space decreases, and in anesthesia also dead space increases, and with lung disease like ARDS and in lateral posture or IPPV there is gross VQ mismatch. This increase leads to increase in alveolar dead space. So the next is physiological dead space. So this is a combination of alveolar as well as anatomical space together. Dead space is usually 30% of the tidal volume. CO2 elimination is inversely proportional to alveolar ventilation. Tidal volume is the sum of dead space and alveolar volume. When the dead space increases, alveolar volume decreases and the arterial carbon dioxide increases. This results in hypercarbia. When dead space increases, to maintain the normal CO2 elimination, then this increase in minute ventilation. The amount of increase is required directly proportional to the increasing dead space. So the patient's ability to increase his minute ventilation and sustain it at high levels progressively, then he can develop the respiratory failure. So when VD by VT ratio exceeds 0.6, the patient may require mechanical ventilation. When a patient is being weaned off mechanical ventilation, it is not just the arterial carbon dioxide and pH that need to be avoided, but also the minute ventilation. It represents the work of breathing for the patient. Generally this is 100 ml per kg per minute, and if it exceeds 200 ml per kg per minute, it is an indication that patient is working very hard to maintain that similar gas exchange. Similarly, if dead space has been imposed on a patient by addition of apparatus dead space, minute ventilation needs proportionally. And if the patient develops hypercarbia, in spite of apparently adequate ventilation set on ventilator, one must actively look for there is apparatus dead space that can be reduced or minimized. Now, dead space increases due to decrease in the gas exchange and increase in alveolar dead space due to decreased perfusion, which in turn can abrupt decrease in cardiac output, hypotension, pulmonary embolism, while obstruction can also decrease perfusion in pulmonary embolism. In pediatric patients, it can be reduced by using the small length ETT, adequate size mask, pediatric HME filters, avoiding the use of positional adapters, and avoiding the maintaining the anesthesia with a face mask. The face mask and its adapter increases the 30% of the tidal volume in infants. It should be reduced by using smaller mask or by decreasing the pressure on the mask or blowing a jet of fresh gas into the mask, changing the volume of the seal. Now, how we measure the dead space? There is the equation, Bohr's equation. All the carbon dioxide is eliminated through alveolar volume, so it should be written as Vt into fraction of carbon dioxide in expired air is equals to tidal volume minus dead space is equals to multiply by carbon dioxide into the arterial gas. Now, by rearranging these formulas, we can get the dead space. There is another Enghoff's modification of Bohr's equation. Here the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the alveolar gas is assumed to be the same as the arterial carbon dioxide. So the equation is written as Vt by Vt is equals to Pa CO2 minus Pe CO2 upon Pa CO2, where Pa is carbon dioxide in the arterial gas and Pe is the carbon dioxide in the expired air. So we have another method. This is a Fowler's technique, nitrogen washout technique. In this method, the patient is asked to take a deep breath of 100% of oxygen and then exhale. Nitrogen concentration of expired gas is measured continuously, and a graph can be extracted by plotting the nitrogen concentration against the volume. This will look like a capnogram. As the patient exhale, at first the gases from anatomical dead space will be exhaled. This would not contain any nitrogen since the patient had breathed in 100% of oxygen previous breath. As patient continues to exhale, a mixture of dead space and alveolar gas is exhaled and the nitrogen concentration gradually increases in phase 2. In phase 3, it reaches a plateau where alveolar gases are exhaled. As patient continues to exhale, some basal alveoli begins to collapse and the gases from apical alveoli contain more nitrogen begin to exhale. This is noted by a sharp upstroke of nitrogen concentration. A line is drawn perpendicular to the x-axis, so we have seen this graph is as, so this is the phase 1, there is sudden upstroke in phase 2 and then there is a plateau phase in phase 3. Thank you, this was all.